Barryon Brown, remember when he was a big deal? I mean, he still is. Barryon Brown at Kentucky?
You get a little big for your britches over there. Just he's still a good football player.
But do you remember his freshman season where everybody was
he hasn't,
that guy, and he hasn't really
he has
followed
not
it up.
continued up. Yes, I agree with that.
Dane Key, both eclipsed 1,000 yards receiving in the same game as sophomores last season at South Carolina. Brown finished last year with 1,167 career receiving yards after becoming the 33rd player in program history to do it. Dane Key concluded last season at 1,155. He was the 34th. And this year, Jamari Macklin, who played the last 2 seasons at the University of North Texas after transferring from Missouri, where his cousin, what was his first name? Jeremy Macklin, played and starred. Mm-hmm. He is now over 1,000 yards for his career. So 3 1,000-yard receivers on this Kentucky roster. Kentucky, of course, in Oxford this weekend. So when you look at this team, 170 yards rushing against Georgia pops off the page at me.
Yeah.
It's the most ever for the Cats against the number 1 ranked team and the most that Georgia has given up since 2016. Borky, unstoppable force, immovable object. Isn't that the saying?
Yeah, it's good on good here, and it's so fascinating because they seemingly can run the football really well, and they cannot pass protect. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. They're very bad in pass protection, but very good at running the football. And Ole Miss's defensive line is really banged up. Now, I think they are all going to play, and that includes Jared Ivey. He's been practicing this week, and he has his own podcast where he said he's going to play. So, you know, if the player says, I'm going to play, believe him. But Ivy coming off of injury, Pegues in a sling, Nolan was limping around last week. They're pretty banged up on that defensive line. All available, but, you know, not 100%. But Ole Miss giving up 34 yards per game on the ground, I know competition level. But that front 4 plus their linebackers are proven at the SEC level, and they've looked like it so far. So can they stop the run? If that answer is yes, there is your football game.
True or false, Kentucky rushes for under 100 yards?
I'm going to say false, but not much over. Just because they'll get some yardage. They'll rush for like 125, something like that.
Okay. Buck 25?
Yeah. But
yeah,
I don't
agree
know
with
they'll pass
Hayden
for much more than that is the problem.
And so even if your yards per game average allowed goes up from 34 to, 65.
Yeah.
But you only give up 250 yards total in an SEC game, you feel pretty good about things, right?
I agree.
Yeah. I was really glad you brought up in the interview earlier, by the way, Maxwell Hairston, the defensive back, because
thanks.
That is a guy that people don't talk about enough with Kentucky because everybody's so focused on Walker on the defensive line, and basically their front seven's really good. There's NFL guys on the field. They're good. They're good there, but they have this defensive back that's a early round NFL guy, and how is Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin going to scheme the guy that's not being covered by him? Or do they just go right at him because that you believe in Trey Harris or Juice Wells in one-on-one matchups? But you know what Kiffin does because you watch it. They will line up with a play call, and he will literally whistle. Now he doesn't have to because of the helmet communication to Dart to change the play because of what he sees on defense. Are you like, how creative is he going to get seeing that, you know, this guy's maybe lined up over top of Harris, so now Juice Wells has an advantageous matchup and vice versa, the little game within the game there, because Kentucky has a legit cover corner.
Kentucky returned 9 starters on defense from a season ago. On the defensive line, Octavius Oxendine, all-name team, Keyshawn Silver and Deion Walker. Linebackers, Alex Afari, J.J. Weaver, and De'Eric Jackson. And defensive backs, Maxwell Hairston, Jordan Lovett, and Zion Childress. That's a lot of returning production from a defense that was okay a year ago. They've been better this year. Maxwell Hairston, Borski,
Hey.
I think I went with there. Borky, 6 career interceptions. What?
We're back to rounders now. Borski. Okay.
Check.
Yeah.
And I know people kind of laugh at Pro Football Focus's grades, but they're I know coaches really don't like them, but highest graded corner in college football so far this year, according to them. So he can play.
Yeah, and I would think that that's a position that you can actually grade a little bit easier than you can an interior lineman or a linebacker. Because with the grades they're putting, they're doing it off the film, but you don't know necessarily what assignments were on a given play. And so you might talk about a right guard that misses a block when, in theory, he was trying to get to the second level. So he didn't miss the block on the guy that was head up on him that made the tackle. There was also supposed to be a back that was chipping on that play, or you were supposed to have somebody pulling. And that may not even be a good example, but you understand. But corner, it's pretty easy to look. Now, you can kind of look at the other things that are going on in the back end of the defense and be like, well, they weren't on the same page. One guy was playing man, one guy was playing zone, and that's a busted coverage that went for 6 on a 70-yard touchdown pass. Maybe you get downgraded for that. But to say highest graded corner, that means he's not missing assignments. That means there are not many busted coverages. You heard John talk earlier about the fact that they did have the one blown coverage in the game against Georgia, and it was a big first down play. We talked a little bit about their run game.
They just can't get the quarterback right. They've hit the portal. Levis wasn't great. Devin Leary was a big disappointment last year. And then you bring in Vandergriff, and you're like, okay, well, he couldn't beat out Carson Beck. That's maybe the best quarterback in the country. There's no shame in not being able to beat him out, but he doesn't seem to be very good.
I think it's more about their offensive line than Carson Beck.
That's a problem, too. Well, then Vandergriff, you mean.
Yeah. I mean than Vandergriff. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
We were talking about Kentucky's running game a second ago. What about Ole Miss's running game, Borky? Over, under 150 yards for the Rebels?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thanks.
You got to stop. His head's going to bust the headphones.
Under. This is a real test. I think this is the second best defensive front that they're going to see all season long. And I am so curious to see carry rotation this week as things get a little bit more serious with Ole Miss. It's the Jones story is a great one. It really is. And he's done a lot of great things. Like, you cannot criticize a single thing that he has done. But is he going to get the majority of the 2 carries? Is it going to be
I think I actually have an answer to that.
You think so?
I do. Yeah, I've talked with some people, and I asked them, what's really the deal with Ulysses Bentley? And the answer that I got was he just got beat out in camp. Parrish has been outstanding, and Matt Jones just earned it. Like, he just was better than Bentley in camp, and when given opportunities in games, he's just earned it. Now, that person that I talked to said something that I've been saying kind of throughout the season. Ulysses Bentley is going to make an impact at some point this season. And I was told that, I'm not trying to wax poetic here or anything, but they said he's a great kid and he's handled this well. This person thought that the surprise was not so much that Henry Parrish won the job, but was that Matt Jones won the backup job and was kind of getting those backup carries. That Ulysses Bentley thought maybe that would kind of be the role. But he has handled this pretty well, despite being disappointed that he's not getting more opportunities. But this person said to me, he's going to win Ole Miss a football game at some point this season. And maybe he does. Maybe it's just he has an impact in a win. I don't know what that is. But I don't think you close the book on Ulysses Bentley by any stretch of the imagination, because we know that there is a lot of talent there. And here's the thing. What happens when you get to Week 10?
Yeah.
And you're playing a team that has, you've got backs that have got 200 carries on the season, 150 carries on the season at that point, and Ulysses Bentley's got 50 carries. Yeah. Spread out. There's a lot of tread on the tires at that point, and maybe a little extra juice in the legs, and a guy who has struggled with injuries throughout his career. Not necessarily his fault, just truth, has struggled to stay healthy. You got a chance to have a fresh Ulysses Bentley for a stretch November run that could be really impactful for this Ole Miss football team.
No doubt.
And it's always a good problem to have, right? You're talking about Ole Miss having 2 number 1 wide receivers a minute ago. It's the same thing here. When you have depth, that's how you win. Yeah. Right? Anybody can have a great starting 11. It's the teams that have a great starting 22. Mm-hmm. They can go 2 deep. Can go 3 deep in some cases. That's the team that can legitimately say we have a chance to win a championship.
And Nick Saban talked about the difference in this Ole Miss team being the offensive and defensive lines, right? They look different. They should perform a little bit different. I agree with that, but I think if you take it one step further, it's quality depth. that is maybe one of the biggest differences on this Ole Miss team. What you were talking about just a second ago, Ole Miss has not had issues with having pretty good first-line talent through the years. It's, okay, well, what's behind those guys? How significant is the drop-off if you lose an offensive lineman? If you lose your number one receiver, do you have guys that can step up into that role? And this Ole Miss team does. And so there's something to that. Let me throw one more over-under at you. Jackson Dart, over-under 327 passing yards.
Over.
Is that what he's averaging?
No.
Okay, then that's a random number.
No, he's averaging like 380.
Okay, 327.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably still say over.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what's working for Ole Miss right now. Why get away from it?
He's the leading passer in the entire country.
Yeah.
Through 4 games this season. You said over, Borky?
I did, yeah.
All right, so if you go $120 on the ground and 340 through the air,
460.
That's a pretty good day off.
You should win.
And you know what? When you add those two numbers together, you go, hold on a second. You sure Ole Miss isn't going for 500 yards of total offense in this game? And no, I'm not sure of that.
No, I'm not sure either.
We'll be back. Sports Talk.